Patter's recycling content. He already reviewed this movie in his What's Up with series. I am unsubbing and then resubbing to unsub again, even though I am Patter, so technically I can't do any of that, but I'm pretending to be someone who would be upset that I'm re-reviewing this movie, which is nobody. Anyway, yeah, I'm reviewing this movie, but not again. Yes, I looked at it in my What's Up with series, but that series is for pet projects. That's where I take everything I do, such as comedy, sketches, reactions, reviews, and information, and combine them all into one big project. With so much going on in those videos and a main focus on comedy, I don't always choose to give an in-depth analysis. I could, I just didn't want to. Now I do. So for this video, we are reviewing this movie that everybody seems to love so much. I don't get it. I really don't. A lot of people in the comments of my What's Up With video were saying that not only did they love it, but they thought it was actually a really good film. Or if I mention that almost every video game movie isn't very good, people comment that this Sonic movie is the only exception. Really? I mean, I don't think it's awful by any means, but when people say it's better visual media presentation than Sonic OVA, I just... What? So apparently, I have a pretty unpopular opinion on this movie, and I don't think I've ever really explained my opinions fully, which simply won't do. So it's time to go back and really dissect this thing, and try to understand why people seem to like it so much, while I personally find it confusing, confused, boring, and, at times, extremely annoying. So let's begin by explaining what this movie is for the couple of people who haven't actually seen it. This thing that I call the Sonic movie is apparently not actually a movie, nor is it called the Sonic movie. I suppose I just conjured that up on my own. Even though that's exactly what it is. I've been corrected on that many times. Rather, it is called Sonic the Hedgehog OVA, or Original Video Animation, which just means that it's a Sonic-based animation that is a video and is original. So it's the Sonic movie. There's nothing wrong with saying that, and I don't care if it was made in Japan and if it's only like 50 minutes long. I'm just gonna call it the Sonic movie. It's still a mess either way, so it doesn't even matter. So the Sonic movie... Sorry, I'm having an off day and am emotionally high-strung. Is based after Sonic CD. It's clearly inspired by the animated opening of the game, but considering the game itself really doesn't have dialogue or a deep story, it doesn't really beg to be made into a movie. There really isn't much reason for this film to exist, and I feel like that's partially where it fails. Look at cartoons like the Super Mario Bros. Super Show or The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, for example. When they came out, they didn't really have much reason to exist. They were based after the first or second games that Mario and Sonic had, and those games don't really have any character personalities or story or plot. It's just a good guy, a bad guy, and a goal, and they were great games, of course. That's all you need for a game, but how do you make a full cartoon series out of that, or in this case, a movie? So then somebody was asked to make a cartoon or a movie because the games were popular, and they would have just had to sit there and be like, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? There's no plot or personalities or anything that demands a movie or cartoon besides maybe some cool action scenes? Nothing warranted any of these cartoons to exist, and that's why both the cartoons, the Super Mario Bros. Super Show and The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, just kinda stink in my opinion. Nobody knew what to do with them. Now, look at Sonic OVA, which came out around the same time as The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. It wasn't based on the games at all, actually. It was its own thing with its own story and characters. I mean, sure, it had Sonic and Tails, but that was about it. Got that Eggman. It was an idea more than it was just a game that sold well, so it was inspired, and it actually worked really great. Maybe it was based after the comics. I don't know which came first, the chicken or the Eggman, but either way, basing a cartoon or movie after a game with no plot just does not work. Now, say they would have waited and based this movie after Sonic Adventure, which did have a plot and characters and development and dialogue. Heck, they actually did that with Sonic X, even though most people think that it's pretty bad. At least it's based after something that makes sense, and as a result, isn't a complete mess of ideas and moods like the Sonic movie is. This film doesn't know what to follow, and it's definitely way more inspired than The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, but sometimes it feels like it's trying to be serious, and sometimes it feels really silly, and sometimes Sonic seems cocky but lighthearted, and then sometimes he's just a menacing pain in the butt, and I don't even know what Knuckles is supposed to be.
I'm Sonic's best friend!
I see!
Sometimes it follows the exact same kind of world that Sonic CD gave us, but since it's not enough to work with on its own, they had to add all this extra stuff about dimensions and history lore, and they just kind of made all this stuff up, and do you see where I'm going with this? There's no real reason for this movie to exist. It had just so little to work off of, and as a result, it comes across as just a big mess of ideas with little direction. But telling is one thing and showing is another, so let's actually show you guys what I'm talking about. Unlike this film that just tells you all kinds of crap and doesn't show you. So we start off showing Sonic and Tails chilling out at their home on the beach. We see them mess around a bit, and then this owl guy comes and tells them the president needs them, because Sonic World has a president, I guess, who's also a monkey. I don't know, we'll get to that. But that's our introduction to Sonic and Tails. And what did we learn? Well, we see that they live together in a crashed plane. We see that they argue a bit. We see Tails is pretty young and Sonic seems like maybe he's an adult, and that's it. That is it. As someone who knows the Sonic lore, knows the characters and their backstories, this didn't bother me, at least when I first saw the movie, and most likely didn't bother you guys either. But could you imagine all the questions you would have from this character intro if you didn't know anything about Sonic? What are Sonic and Tails' relationship? Are they brothers or friends? Do they have a job or a purpose in this world, or do they just kind of hang out on the beach all the time? Why do they live in a plane? I still don't even know that one. Why are Sonic and Tails so important that they know the president? Why is the president asking to see them? Like, they have to be important. They have to say there's some kind of reason why they're... But the president just doesn't ask people over for dinner. These are our two main characters, and all we know about them is that this one's Sonic and this one's Tails, and they know each other in some way or another, and are supposedly important because the president wants them, and that's it. And who is this owl guy? They made him up. He's not in the games, but the only relation that he has to them is... person that they know. So right off the bat, nobody knows what's going on. Let's just assume that Tails and Sonic are investment partners who live together in a crashed plane that they met in because they were in a plane crash together, maybe, and they know the president because they invested in his real estate. At this point, you can't say I'm wrong. I mean, you can because you know it's wrong, but you know what I'm saying. So Sonic and Tails go to see the president. It turns out it's just Robotnik, and his introduction is Sonic and Tails know who he is, so we know that they've met, and then he attacks them, so we know that he's bad, but... Again, that is it. That's all for his character introduction. He's just an evil dude. He could be a terrorist. He could be a member of the Mafia, maybe. How should we know? He's called a doctor, so that's confusing in itself. I won't keep hammering this point in that we have no idea what or who anything is, because you get it at this point. I'm starting to annoy myself. The movie creators didn't know who Eggman was besides a bad guy, because that's really all he was in the game. They didn't know who Sonic and Tails were, because they were just kind of two friends in the games, too. That's all they had to work with. They know at least that they're heroes, and as a result, we don't know either of them. As a result, the people watching this movie don't know either. This assumes you don't need to know, just like in the video games, which is not the case. SatAM made up backstories and goals and relationships because it could. This movie can't make those things up because it's completely canon to the game. Sega will eventually define those things, and they did, but they're not defined yet, so they had no choice but to kind of be confused when making this movie. I'm not confused because I know who everyone is and what they're all about, but even subconsciously, this movie not knowing makes me feel confused to think, like, does the movie know? Does it think that we know that it knows? Or do we think that it thinks that we know that it knows? The movie doesn't know. Case in point, moving on. So Robotnik has the president and his daughter held hostage and uses them to force Sonic to listen to... I don't even know. He just wants Sonic to listen to him, so I made a hostage situation. I don't know. Starts ranting about all this lore and boring stuff, and I'll try to make it as simple as I can, but just as a warning, it won't make sense anyway. He explains that Freedom Planet is divided into 2 dimensions. Robotropolis is one of them, and that's where he lives. That's where Robotnik lives. And one day, Metal Robotnik came and took over that dimension, and then after he took over, Metal Robotnik sabotaged the dimension's power supply so that it will explode and destroy pretty much the entire planet. Okay, got all that? Good. Okay, so first off, yeah, Freedom Planet's a thing. I guess we're supposed to just know that this is where everything takes place. Secondly, dimensions. Complicated as is. Thirdly, one of the dimensions is just a city where this guy Robotnik lives, and then this evil robot with the same name as Robotnik takes it over for some reason. We don't know. He never says why he does it. He just kind of does it. Robotnik doesn't even have a reason. And then he just sets it to explode. So that seemed really pointless, taking it over, if you're just going to destroy it. I don't understand. Now, beyond the fact that Robotnik explaining things is boring as is, this story should be simple. World's gonna blow up, Sonic and Tails have to stop it. That's it. Nothing more to it at the moment, at least, so why did they add all this complicated crap? Why are there 2 dimensions? Both will get destroyed, so why even have them? Why not just 2 locations that could get destroyed exactly the same? Why have a hostage situation to force Sonic to save the world? You think he's just not gonna care if everyone in the world dies, including him, so you have to take these random 2 people hostage? Also, why does this explode? Yes, it's funny, like when things blow up in people's face, but he poked a thing, and the thing exploded, but it's still there. So I'm just confused, I don't find it funny. So the plot, as is a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I'm pretty sure I used is like 5 times in that sentence. Oh, but it gets even worse. Eventually, they get to this generator and shut it down. Who knew? But it turns out that it was a trap from Robotnik, and the trap scanned Sonic to create a robot clone called Metal Sonic, who is also connected to Sonic's brain so he can read his thoughts and vice versa. So once again, why was this so complicated? Let's look at the goal of Robotnik. Robotnik. He wants to scan Sonic to make his robot to destroy Sonic and rule the world. It's simple. It's a simple plan. But oh no, it can't be that simple. You couldn't just tell him to come to the White House. It is a White House, right? You couldn't just tell him to come to the president's house and use that trap to scan him, could you? No, you had to make a hostage situation and then think up this complicated backstory about Metal Robotnik and the power generator so that you could catch him. But even that makes no sense, because on the way there, Metal Robotnik tries to kill him anyway to make things harder for him, even though he wants Sonic to succeed because it's his own gosh darn trap! This plot is so overly complicated and pointless, and yes, maybe there are possible reasons for everything, but we all know this movie isn't smart enough to have any of them. So yeah, this plot is overly complicated, and the character introductions are bad. And now the second movie starts. Yes, this film is pretty much two films. The first was all this pointless stuff that I ranted about for 7 years, and now halfway through the movie, the real plot starts because Metal Sonic actually comes out, and all that shenanigans is out of the way, and then the movie stops being complicated. Now it's about Sonic and Metal Sonic fighting, and Knuckles and Tails trying to find a way to stop Metal and save the world. And that's simple as is. Shame it took us a half hour to get here, but oh well. Now, if you think me talking about these complicated plots and stuff is boring and annoying, you're right, it is. So let's take a break before we get to the second half of the film and look at some more practical things, like action scenes, animation, voice acting, etc. Honestly, these things I don't mind about the film at all. The animation, as you can see, is actually really good. It's crisp, it's consistent, and it works good for the action scenes. It actually has a lot of weight and excitement to it. The voice acting is something a lot of people hate. I actually personally like it. It's really weird, and everybody has a voice that you can't really put a face to. I don't know how that helps me like the voice acting a little bit, but just hearing this voice, what kind of person or face comes to mind when you hear it?
Tails, we just have to go straight ahead, right?
That's what the navigator says!
What do you think the voice actor would look like? Just nothing comes up for me, because it's just such an odd, strange voice. I can't even put a gender to it. And for some reason I like that, I guess. It can get a bit annoying, but I love Sonic X, so maybe I have more tolerance considering I've sat through those 4 kids' voice actors, and actually prefer them over the modern-day Sonic Boom cast. Surprisingly, there's a lot of people who agree with me on that. The writing is pretty dumb, actually. It does a lot of telling and not showing, oh, Sonic said Eggman lies a lot. I guess that's a thing. Or, oh, Sonic says that Tails is acting like a kid.
Tails is just like a little kid with his new toy.
He's not actually talking to anyone. It's like breaking the fourth wall. But okay, sure, I guess Tails is kidly. This person, who I forgot even existed, tells Sonic to save the world for the two of them. So I guess they're a couple? Maybe? I don't even know, because Sonic doesn't seem to like her at all. Knuckles is Sonic's best friend, I guess.
I'm Sonic's best friend!
A lot of the jokes in this movie aren't very funny. They're either supposed to be funny because someone is confused, which isn't funny, or are some kind of innuendo.
But I was just about to show you something that's really spectacular!
Which, in Sonic, is not funny. That being said, this movie is funny, just not when it's trying to be. There's this line.
Thanks for saving us there, Knuckles. Yeah, that's one more job I won't get paid for, but I've known you for a while, so I'll just put it on your tab, and you can pay me back later on.
Something about the way that Knuckles says that line just feels hilarious and wrong in every single way, and it's fantastic. How about personalities? Well, Sonic is sort of Sonic-y, I guess. He's hot-headed, but he's also pretty mean. He actually needs to be convinced to save the world. I don't know why. And okay, sure, maybe the hostage thing was actually necessary. I'm joking, it wasn't. Tails seems like the most level-headed character. He's very Tailsy, no complaints there. Knuckles is a guy, he yells a lot, and that's about all I got from him.
I'm Sonic's best friend!
Eggman is a perv. And is actually Robotnik, sorry. He wants to marry Sarah, who is annoying and awful. This movie would have been a billion times better without her, especially since she has absolutely no purpose whatsoever. I don't even know why Robotnik brings her along at all. She just complains and annoys him too, so nobody really likes her beyond Eggman wanting kids, which is just wrong. Very wrong. This movie is mentally confusing. Owl Guy! He's mentally insane, and he puts on Sonic's clothes because Metal Sonic tells him to, and if a billion questions popped into your head after I said that sentence, you are a normal human being, no worries. Okay, Metal Sonic, he doesn't really speak, so he doesn't have much personality, but I think that's a good thing for him. It makes him more intimidating. That being said, I really didn't like him very much as a villain or a plot point. To explain that, let's actually jump into the second half, whatever the heck it is. This whole movie is about Sonic and his pals trying to save the world from Robotnik, or so it seems. You think that that's all there is to it through the whole movie, even when he's fighting Metal Sonic. It's really just Sonic and Tails and Knuckles trying to stop Eggman. Complicated and unnecessary as it is, that's all that there is to it. But then in the final scene, Metal Sonic saves the President and Owl Guy for literally I don't even know why. And then he falls to his death, and Sonic, who's been fighting him for the past half hour of the film, jumps down and tries to save him. So Metal Sonic climbs up just to slap his hand away and then say, "There is only one Sonic." Then he just lets himself die. I'm not really sure where to start. I guess this scene was supposed to say that the whole movie was like about Metal Sonic seeing the error of his ways and turning good, but just no, there is no conflict there to begin with. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. People like say that's one of the big deep parts of the film, but no, it just kind of came and it was there and it was a thing. They didn't set it up at all. Through the whole movie, they kept saying that Sonic and Metal have the same thoughts, so they're thinking the same thing and they know all the same things. And heck, they even have the same memories, apparently. That's sort of neat. I mean, they have to find out how to beat Metal Sonic without telling Sonic how, because then Metal Sonic would know, and I like that. That's a cool idea. But nowhere in the film is there any conflict going on with Metal or Sonic's minds. He's just out of nowhere saves these guys, becomes good, and dies. That's it. He just saves them out of nowhere with no reason or turning point. He just does it. Did Sonic have like such strong feelings for these two Dumbos that it caused them... I'm sorry I called them Dumbos. I like Owl Guy. I don't like the President. President is a Dumbo. Did Sonic just like have super strong feelings for them and it caused Metal to turn? If so, why didn't Metal turn right away? He's always had the same feelings as Sonic as soon as he was incarnated, I suppose. Nothing has changed. I don't get it. I even think it's a good idea. I think it would have been a really cool aspect of the movie if they would have done something like Metal feels Sonic's pain because of maybe something like the death of a close friend character, and that makes him turn, and okay, that would have been deep. But, well, the idea is there, and it's the same concept. It just sort of comes, it acts like it's a big deal, and then it leaves. And it felt like another random plot point that they just threw in there because they had to think up stuff, because this movie had nothing to be based on. So everyone is saved, Metal is dead, and all is well. And in the end, everybody is chasing Sonic for, I don't know, they each have their own dumb reason. I actually kind of like the ending there because they're all like chasing Sonic, and Sonic has to run from people. I don't know, it fits his character and his speedy premise, so points for that. And that's it. That is the movie. What do I think of it? I don't mind it. It's fine. Like, half of it's a boring mess of lore, exposition, and plot holes with extremely serious tone, and that's not fun. And then the other half is, like, cool action scenes and corny jokes and dialogue, which is fun. It's two movies, both not done very well, and both chopped up and thrown in the first and last half of the movie. Like, it's not just the last half is good and the first half is bad, but I enjoyed it overall, in its own weird way. I don't think it's a good movie, maybe even critically it's a bad movie. I don't agree if people say it's good, but I can get behind them if they say they enjoyed it. For me, it had just the right problems to be a movie that I don't like very much. It's one thing to not be a very good movie, but it's another to not be a very good movie that has a lot of boring and confusing plots. If it's boring or confused, that stuff really gets to me. That's like my movie pet peeve, I just can't stand it. Yeah, maybe I'd be different if it had more comedy and personality mixed in, but it just wasn't the right balance for me, and that's okay. I can still enjoy some of it, and I did give this film an honest chance, and I see why people like it. And that's it. Sonic OVA gets a nice meh from me. I forgot what I said about it in my What's Up With video in terms of my opinion, but oh well, this is me now saying that it's meh. My thoughts on this are pretty much all out there, but I'd like to hear what you guys thought of it too. Let me know what your thoughts and counterpoints to my plot holes and stuff were, and if you haven't seen it yet, watch Sonic X instead.